Hi everyone, this is Pierrick from P2 Design. In this video I will show you how to create this tileable texture and how to blend it with another texture using the heigh map. Let's get started. The first step is to create what I call a tile. It's a simple plane that we will subdivide twice on both X and Y axis so that we get 3 by 3 squared faces. Then I will scale it on 3 by 3 so that when I add a camera with an orthographic view and make sure it is centered in the document by resetting the X and Y axis and setting it to orthographic with a scale of 1, so it's one Blender unit. It will frame one of the faces of our subdivided plane. Then, to create my rocky ground, I will start by adding a new plane, and in edit mode I will use the knife tool, pressing K, so that I can cut rocky shapes, let's say. I don't care about end-gun or heavy quads or whatever because I will be sculpting it using Dynamesh. So then I will extrude it and make sure I have a nice bevel on the border. It's very important from top view that you can read the side of your mesh. This is a trick from Michael Viggens, known as Hobbs, which is one of my favorite environment artists at Blizzard. So they make sure that everything is tapered and everything is beveled so that it reads well from afar and from the top view. Then I can duplicate or repeat the process by adding a new plane, cutting it, extruding it, etc. Then in object mode, I will parent this mesh to our tiler. Then I will enable the option Dupli Face in the Duplication tab. This will automatically create instances of our mesh, and since it's distributed onto our faces, this will create automatic tiles. So I've modeled different shapes and rotated them a bit so that they are blending one on top of each other, and you can see you get some complex rocky field very fast. Then I just have to export this solo object into OBJ, or if you are sculpting in Blender, you can sculpt directly from there. Once imported in ZBrush, I will create automatic polygroups so that each stone are separated. This will allow me to sculpt them one by one in the first pass of sculpting. I won't show how I have sculpted the stone because there are a ton of references about this on YouTube. Once I'm done, I will use the decimation master to reduce the polygons, so you need to pre-process the subtool, then set the number of polygons you want to reach and click decimate. Then I will export it as an OBJ, so I'm trying to stay beneath 1,000,000 polygons, in this case 400,000 polygons, because then it will be duplicated 9 times due to the tiler, so this will bring the polygons pretty high, and you don't need that much polys to keep nice details. Back in Blender, I will parent my sculpt to our tiler. This will create the instances, and then I will make my render twice the size that needed, meaning that I have already the tiling appearing here. This will allow me to crop the texture later on in Photoshop to get rid of some artifact due to the curvature smooth filter I will show you later on. Here is my normal map material, so it's currently just a vector curve inputted with normals, and you just have to offset the XYZ X value to -1 so that it takes in account values from 0.5 to 1 as would a normal map. This is plugged into a gamma set to 2.2 so that I can export an sRGB texture or a linear texture by removing this gamma correction. And then when I render it, I will get a nice normal map. To generate the aimed map, I will first set the 3D cursor to the highest point of the surface. My 0 value is set to the origin of the document, so my 3D cursor Z value will indicate me the height of the object. I will then use this value to divide my separate XYZ value of the position of the object. This will allow me to get a precise 8 map with a value from 0 to 1. Then in my render passes, I will enable AO and I can then render what I have in the screen. As usual, I'm using the curvature file from Daniel Bekusha that allow you to convert a normal map to a curvature texture. So honestly, this is way better, I believe, than using the pointiness node. So here you can see the artifact I was talking about when using it on an already cropped texture. This is why when I've generated them, I've made it on a larger one and then cropped them in Photoshop. Once we have generated all of our texture, we need to create a tileable support. So I will add a plane and wrap it, and then in edit mode I will duplicate it, hold Control to create instances in a 3x3 square shape. Then I will select everything, click remove double so that it will weld all the joint vertices. And now, since the first square was unwrapped, the other one will inherit the same UV map in a single object, and as soon as I will paint one side of one face, it will be painted on the other side of the next face, generating a tileable support without having to activate any tileable function in the painting mode. And this is very handy because I can now use this in Substance Painter to paint seamlessly onto a plain surface. So I will export this mesh as an OBJ and I will load it into Substance Painter and also load all the texture I have baked previously, the normal, curvature, AO and stuff like this. I'm using the specular workflow because we are working in Unity using specular shaders. So now you can see that my base texture are repeating seamlessly, and I can also paint seamlessly onto the surface. And when I will export the texture, it will be exported as 1/9 of this plane, which is perfect. I will be able to load the exported texture directly in whatever software I want, and it will work perfectly. Since I've been making stones for a while for the game, I've created a smart material in Substance Painter. This allows me to get all the setup already made, and then I just have to tweak the values. This way I'm sure that I have homogeneous setup and colors through all my assets for the game, avoiding to have color differences or material differences between the different stones that will be on the map of the game. The material breakdown is pretty simple. I have my AO that is multiplied on the diffuse, the glossiness and the specularity. The curvature smooth will allow me to bring the nice details, and it is blending using an AO mask so that I don't have highlights inside the creases. Then I'm using the 8 to mask different color values so that the higher we are, the lighter is the color of the stone. Using fill layers instead of painting the color will allow me to modify the color at will later on if needed, so that I can match color of other pieces in the game. I've exported my texture from Substance Painter and loaded them into Blender 2.8 onto a simple unwrapped plane using this node setup. So I have my different texture in different texture nodes that are inputted into this node group that kind of fake the Unity shader for specularity workflow. And I've also in black here my 8th map plugged into a color ramp that will allow me to dial in informations. I have a second texture set for this more ground texture with less stones, and I will just mix those two shaders using the color ramp plugged into the displacement or 8th map we have generated before. So as soon as I will move the color ramp, this will allow me to blend those two textures. To get nice transition, I'm using the heigh fall off for the gradient so that I don't have something too smooth that will look very fake. I also have an example where I am blending another texture using a texture mask that is painted. So in this case, I'm painting red or blue or green colors and use a separate RGB so that I get this mask and I can mix other shaders like this grass shader. If you want to also add 8 blending with this, your node setup will kind of get a bit crazy, but it's totally doable. The thing is that in Unity there are plugins that will do this automatically for you. The thing here is just to test my texture and see if they work well together. So that's it for this little tutorial video. Hope you liked it. Don't forget to click the like button and to subscribe if you enjoy my content. And I hope to see you very soon in another video. Bye bye.